not that song.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
FF episode 1415. I am Mike Matthews, broadcasting from Cafe Anyway, located somewhere in Podcastro Valley, 10. Today, it is Shelley Schuhart, Floyd the Floorman, John Deere the Engineer. We'll get to the segment called Matthews News. A lot of interesting news to get to. And I think I'll sing a song.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
I was having a wonderful dinner last evening with some friends.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
I had dinner with some Asian friends at a Mexican cafe. And there was a lot of interesting things we did say, like talking about Rogue One, which I've mentioned on this show, and how I have a problem with the way they took Peter Cushing and brought him back to life with computer graphics and I don't know.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
It just didn't look right to me. It looks so robotic. But everyone that I have spoken to who
Mike's
is under the age of 30
Daily
has strongly defended
Podcast.
Rogue One's use of a dead person and making them look robotic, even though they were trying to make them look real. They have all defended it. So this is my thinking, is millennials like cheap, crappy special effects. Look who just walked in. So that means the next Star Wars they make, they could spend so little money if they wanted to. Maybe, with the spaceships flying, don't do all the CGI stuff. Just have like a little paper airplane and then throw it. Look who else walked in. And a couple other people walked in. So many people walked in. It's a busy place here at Cafe Anyway.
Hello, Mike Matthews. It's Shelley Schuhart, the gift shop supervisor. Yeah, I don't know what's up with millennials.
And here's today's podcast picture.
I heard some old guy call them millenniums. That's not right, is it?
I don't think so, Mike Matthews.
So now we're going to have a solar eclipse. This is exciting. August 21st, a week from tomorrow. Everyone's going nuts about it. So the podcast picture has to do with the moon. And a BART zooming by. Oh, I got into a big heated argument with a millennial yesterday because I was playing them a little bit of the show that I produce for someone on the radio, the money radio station I work for. This host of this show doesn't plan out anything ahead of time, so I have to, by the seat of my pants, throw sound effects in here and there that might work. But he doesn't tell me, I'd like this sound effect or that sound effect ahead of time. I got to do it off the top of my head. So I'm playing him a little bit of what I do. And this millennium says to me, oh, you came in really late with that sound effect. And I hit the table and I'm like, are you telling me, you're honestly criticizing me about that? I had no idea he was going to talk about that. I'm trying to get YouTube up. And I'm having this and that, and he's like, no excuses, Mike. Play like a champion. So then I put him in front of the computer and didn't have YouTube up, and I said, okay, now I'm going to talk about Bart. Blah, 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 blah. I need a Bart sound effect. Come on. And he's like, oh. And he came up with one. So maybe I have to learn from the student, I think. But this is a BART picture in this picture at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com that you can see. See it now. And see also, Tybee Island. Oh, that's a cool little beach resort area near Savannah, Georgia. The sand. In the south, the beaches, the sand is just amazing. The way it feels on your feet. I got to get to Florida. I got to see my mom. That's been weighing on my mind lately. Almost bought some tickets, but then the millennial walked in and started criticizing my work, and so I didn't have time to buy the tickets. But I did have a fun time eating Mexican food with my Asian friends. And one of them, in fact, was the grandson of someone who used to sing in lounges and knew all the big songs of the day. And he grew up learning a lot of these older songs. And speaking of the moon, Moon River, and he sings all those. And then he knew all this 80s music that I grew up with, even though he was a millennium MMO. And it was fascinating talking to him and eating all kinds of fattening foods at this Mexican restaurant. Oh my gosh, the chips I ate. I woke up not feeling so good this morning. But I did want to jump into this quick little aside. I'm over here on this side. Ooh, if I was really good, I would pan this to the right, make it in your right ear or something, but I'm not. You're just going to have to imagine it. I don't have the money for that sort of special effect. No, what I would say is that I watched this thing on C-SPAN 2. Book TV is what they have on the weekends. And they were at the Museum of Jewish Heritage. And there was a guy who spoke at that used to be a skinhead. And he talked about why he stopped being a skinhead and why he's completely against that now. And the curator of the museum, at the very end, gave him such an emotional thank you. It almost made me cry. But that was on Book TV, C-SPAN 2 today. If you were watching that instead of watching the Hallmark Channel and watching actresses that you were like, oh yeah, I remember when she was big on Party of Five or whatever it was. Anyway, it's neither here nor there over there. MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com, wonderful website if you'd like to help out the show. If you're going to buy anything on Amazon, click on that Amazon link, buy whatever it is you're going to buy, and it helps us out that way. Also, there's the PayPal if you'd like to help us out that way. You'll become an inglorious Mike's Daily Podcaster and get a special greeting from all the Cafe Anyway characters. Now, I'm going to get to this segment called Matthew's News right now.
Matthew's News.
Technical difficulty.
Now we return you to our regularly scheduled program with Mike Matthews.
But first, before we do that, I would like to say I was very pleased to hear this one radio show I listened to on NPR, Minnesota Public Radio. It's Kelly Miller hosts the show, and she had on the head editor of NPR, Minnesota Public Radio, and their news department. And they discussed the liberal bias of NPR and NPR, or what is perceived to be liberal bias, and then what some people think is conservative bias. Back and forth, they were discussing this. But they did bring up a fascinating couple websites that talked about fact-checking. In today's world of quote-unquote fake news, what's the real news? Well, it's certainly not that weird Facebook, YouTube video that our president's going to be posting once a week with the blonde that used to be on CNN that I can't think of her name now. But is it Heidi Montag? No, she's someone else. But they did mention a couple of websites, one of them being factcheck.org, which I looked on there, and they had this interesting article about Medicare scare tactics, which this is actually taking aim at the Democrats. TV ads from a Democratic group warn seniors that, quote, right now, your Medicare coverage is in danger, claiming deep automatic cuts could be made by unelected Washington bureaucrats. But those cuts, according to current estimates, actually would not be implemented until 2023. And they would amount to 0.002 percentage points of Medicare growth that year. It's true that more automatic cuts to the growth of spending are expected in the future years, but like many political messages about Medicare, these ads feature scare tactics. And that's something to remember any political message you see, and that's why I hate television. That's why I don't watch regular TV, because of all the commercials, and then around election time, it's nonstop political commercials. And that's, quite frankly, media, who I work for, makes its money from. We make off of that. And it's not, and that's, you know, it's a boon to media. It's why media still exists. But at the same time, it's wrong, and you should stop watching it, and you should watch only non-commercial type programming like from Netflix or whatever new thing that Disney's going to make, or what HBO, whatever your favorite, you'll be able to pick your favorite entertainment conduit. But as many political messages about Medicare, these ads feature scare tactics, warning of cuts that could restrict access to doctors and deny care, when we don't yet know what any cost cutting would entail. They're from Majority Forward, a 501c4 formed to support Democratic candidates, and it's affiliated with the Senate Majority PAC. So see, Democrats also have big PAC funds and groups, and so that's just one interesting side of it, that that the Democrats need to keep an eye on. But then Donald Trump, of course, speaks many, 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 many lies, and that's really what the whole attention is being put upon these fact-checking websites. President Donald Trump took a swipe at former President Barack Obama, as he tends to do a lot, that and Hillary Clinton, as Donald Trump renewed his pledge to tackle the opioid epidemic, which claims the lives of tens of thousands of people a year. Trump said the opioid overdose deaths have nearly quadrupled since 1999. But while deaths soared, Trump said overall drug prosecutions declined in recent years, a trend Trump vowed to reverse. However, now that first story we had was from the fact-check website called factcheck.org. This is from PolitiFact, and both these websites I found through that podcast that I was listening to from Minnesota Public Radio. And PolitiFact said that we found that Trump is correct that federal drug prosecutions declined from 2011 to 2016 under Obama, but he lacks evidence to prove that's the culprit for the opioid overdose crisis. A White House spokesman declined to comment on the record. And then finally, one other fact-check website, Snopes, talked about a 1927 New York Times article. The claim was that Donald Trump's father was arrested following a Ku Klux Klan-related altercation in 1927. The New York Times article from that year named Fred Trump among the individuals arrested after a near riot involving the KKK and New York City policemen at a memorial parade. That part is true, but the article did not document that Fred Trump was a KKK, I don't know how many Ks are involved, member or supporter, or that he was charged with a crime in connection with the KKK event. This all came from a Boing Boing website article from 2015, September 9th, that referenced an archived New York Times piece from 1927, one which reported that President Donald Trump's father, Fred Trump, had been arrested in connection with a KKK event. And that's what I wanted to mention, was fact-checking, and go to those websites. And if you have a question, like I had, I don't know if I can do this on the fly right now. Ooh, I don't see a search thing. I really want to look up this whole Chelsea Clinton, not Bill Clinton's daughter. I'm typing that now, and I know I'm probably not going to get anything out of this if I hit go. No, all I got is Hillary Clinton has her third heart attack. Docs say she won't survive, and they go into that. All right. Well, at any rate, there's ways to fact check. They have a fact checking of Hillary's acceptance of the Democratic nomination. Well, so I find that fascinating and very helpful in our world. And there's probably other fact checking websites that I don't know of at the moment. Hey, Irene Pena just gave me a Facebook comment saying, always so fun to hang out with you on the phone lines, as we did an interview a week ago today. So if you didn't hear that, go back to the, what was it? What edition of the show was that? Oh, I guess it was the August 30th. No, wait. It was that was all the way back in July. No, it was the August 6th one. There we go. August 6th interview I did with Irene Pena. And you can hear her song that she's just released. It is a cover of OK Go, the band OK Go, that is known for all the crazy videos they do where they supposedly film things in real time, odd events. But they had a song, one of the first ones they did that they got notoriety for the song Here It Goes Again, where they're on treadmills. You can see, or you can hear Irene Pena do a cover of that. She does a great cover of it. And hear it on the interview that we did a week ago. Well, in other news that happened, Trump in particularly, he reportedly suspects that his chief strategist, Stephen Bannon, is behind some White House leaks about fellow staffers. According to a new report by Axios, sources said that the West Wing staff believe Bannon was behind leaks about National Security Advisor H.R. McMaster, and that Bannon's job could be in danger. According to the report, Trump has been irritated with Bannon following a series of Breitbart reports targeting McMaster. Bannon was formerly the executive chairman of Breitbart. There is no clear connection, however, linking Bannon to such reports, and Trump has long decried leaks of sensitive information to media, such as specifics of his Oval Office conversations with world leaders earlier this year and details surrounding the palace intrigue around the White House. Attorney General Jeff Sessions announced a government-wide crackdown on leakers just this past Friday, including a review of Justice Department policies on subpoenas for media outlets that publish such sensitive information. Many also expect that Chief of Staff John Kelly will help crack down on leaks, according to The Hill. And Josh Delk. Well, there is an alleged... Oh, my gosh. Well, let's go to this one. After weeks of feuding, two key figures in Britain's cabinet came together today to say any post-Brexit transition would not be a backdoor to continued European Union membership. They're not continuing with the EU. Finance Minister Philip Hammond, who favors a softer pro-business Brexit, and International Trade Secretary Liam Fox, a hardline supporter of Britain leaving the EU, have clashed over the UK's future outside the bloc. But in a joint article for the Sunday Telegraph newspaper, they agreed there should not be a cliff edge when Britain leaves in March of 2019. They said any transition period would be time limited and that Brexit would mean Britain will pull out of both the European single market and customs union. They said, we want our economy to remain strong and vibrant through this period of change. That means businesses need to have confidence that there will not be a cliff edge when we leave the EU in just over 20 months' time. A cliff edge. Now, on to this alleged... The man accused of plowing a car into a crowd of protesters in Charlottesville, killing one person and leaving 19 injured, was long sympathized with Nazi views and had stood with a group of white supremacists hours before the bloody crash. The accused driver's name's James Alex Fields Jr. of Ohio. He's 20 years old, had espoused extremist ideals at least since high school, according to a history teacher at his high school. And, quote, it was obvious that he had this fascination with Nazism and a big idolatry of Adolf Hitler. He had white supremacist views. He really believed in that stuff. And that, once again, reminds me to go. You should go and watch that very interesting speech that the former white supremacist gave at the Museum of Jewish Heritage. It was on Book TV today on C-SPAN 2. It was very, very interesting. Now, back to the eclipse So what time exactly can I see the Great American Total Solar Eclipse? And how's the weather looking for my desired viewing location? There's an app for that. In fact, there's many. There are 30 solar eclipse apps in the Apple iTunes App Store, USA Today found, and more than 70 in the Google Play Store. The radio station I work for on the weekends that I'm actually recording this at, they are in fact also on their website featuring a special thing on their website to tell you more about that going on, that eclipse. I am very anti-hype, and even though I know this is a once-in-a-lifetime type thing, I am just so not into it. Oh, look who else is here. Wait a minute. We didn't get to the other characters that are here. Sorry, guys. Oh, Mike, this is Floyd the Floorman! And this is John Deere, the engineer. Yes, Mike, the eclipse is going to be very fascinating, and you should go and check it out because it's the first you'll be able to view from coast to coast since 1918. And it begins on the coast of Oregon at 10:15 a.m. Pacific time, August 21st. Ah, okay, maybe that is interesting then. Mike, you should go see it. Watch it with the one you love. Because I'm Floyd the Floorman. All right, that's very romantic. Shelley, who are you going to watch it with?
My boyfriend, Bob.
Oh, that's good. Shelley Schuhart and her boyfriend, Bob. So, most offer the basics, these apps, a map showing the exact timing of both the partial and total eclipse in your neighborhood, a countdown clock, weather information for the day, and scientific facts about the eclipse in space. I see a guy named Steve when I walk my dog, Basil the Boxer, and he's got a dog named Simi, and he was telling me all about the eclipse months ago. In fact, talked to me at length. Talked to me to the point that I could not, leave because he kept talking and talking and talking. Anyway, he was telling me, oh, yeah, we're going to try and get up to Oregon. Well, then, I saw him a few weeks ago, and he's like, yeah, we're not going to Oregon. There's no reason. It's going to be so freaking packed. The other interesting thing, and I just heard this on Wait, Don't Tell Me yesterday, is that a lot of the towns that are going to be some of the best viewing for the eclipse voted overwhelmingly for Trump during the last election. I don't know what that means exactly, but it's just an interesting fact, and I don't see why Trump supporters would not be all interested in the eclipse, but there you go. Millions of Chinese cyclists may soon be able to ditch their air pollution masks. Yes. Oh, such a prevalent part of Chinese culture is the air pollution masks. They do not have good air at all. It is crap. And Dutch innovation firm Studio Roosgaard has partnered with bike-sharing startup Offo to develop a new model that can collect polluted air, purify it, and release the clean air around the cyclist. The studio founder, Don Roosgaard, confirms to Quartz, this is where this article comes from, Quartz, that the first prototype of the smog-sucking future bike is expected to be ready by the end of this year. It was unveiled at the TED conference in April. The smog-free bicycles are part of Roosgaard's suite of objects to address the global air pollution crisis. Last year, he unveiled a smog-free tower in China that could purify 30,000 cubic meters, or about 1 million cubic feet of air every hour. The collection of soot is transformed to fashion accessories, everything from rings to cufflinks, so advocates can wear Beijing smog as mementos. Dang, that's fascinating. Back to the moon. Astronauts wandering the moon next year could use a smartphone to call home. A German startup is preparing to set up the first telecommunication infrastructure on the lunar surface. The German company called Part-Time Scientists, which originally competed for the Google Lunar X Prize Race to the Moon, plans to send a lander with a rover in late next year to visit the landing site of Apollo 17, which was launched in 1972. And this was NASA's final Apollo mission to the moon. Instead of using a complex, dedicated telecommunication system to relay data from the rover to the moon, to the Earth, the company will rely on LTE technology, the same system used on Earth for mobile phone communications. Quote, we are cooperating with Vodafone in order to provide LTE base stations on the moon, said the person who heads the embedded electronics development and integration for the startup. We are aiming to do what we're aiming to do is to provide commercial service to bring goods to the Earth, to the moon, and also provide services on the surface of the moon. So Part-Time Scientist has a launch contract for late of next year, 2018, with SpaceX as a secondary payload on the Falcon 9 rocket. The company believes it will be the first private entity to reach the surface of the moon, suggesting that none of the Google Lunar X participants are likely to meet the December 2017 deadline for the competition. And Falcon 9 will carry the team's spacecraft Alina to the geostationary transfer orbit, a highly elliptical Earth orbit whose highest point is 26,000 miles. From there, Alina will continue on its own to the moon. And that's fascinating. As we go outside a cafe anyway, we're bringing Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcaster Valley. I watched a little bit of Interstellar today, and I might watch the whole thing. That looked very interesting. I was discussing a movie that I saw with one of the people at the dinner last night, one of the millennials I was having dinner with, and saying to them how I watched a movie called The Good Heart that featured Paul Dano. And I said, Paul Dano seems to me to be such a one-note actor. Everything I've seen him in, he seems to do the same thing. And he said to me, this guy said to me, you know, you're wrong, Mike. One-note actors are fantastic. They're great. And Denzel Washington is one of the best one-note actors of all time. And whenever he gives a speech in a movie, he always points at himself. Whereas Tom Cruise, whenever he gives a speech in a movie, he points away from himself. Now, I haven't fact-checked that, but damn, what an interesting observation. And that wraps up today's special Sunday edition of Mike's Daily Podcast. Oh, I slept in today. It was so wonderful. And I want to thank you for listening to the show. I threw that fact out there for no... Oh, you know what I was going to do on today's show? Oh, rats, I didn't do this. Darn it. So, when I look on Instagram, there are some Instagram idiots on there that post the same freaking thing all the time. There's this one guy I knew him from high school. All he ever posts on Instagram is him smoking cigars with, is it D.L. Hughley or D.H. Hughley, that comedian? All he ever does is post pictures of him and go, oh my God. Well, that's a nice post. Then I've got someone that I met named, well, I'm not going to say her name, but she always posts pictures of herself not wearing much clothing. I mean, she's clothed in this picture I'm looking at, but not with my... Anyway, cafe anyway. Some people post some of the same stuff over and over again on Instagram, and I'm starting to feel like I need to unfollow some people, which I might do. Not on this show, though. At this point, I don't think I'll unfollow anyone. But the guy... I think I'll stop following the guy who all he ever does is post pictures of him and Hughley smoking cigars and playing golf. Yes, I think that's a good move to do on this Sunday. Have a wonderful rest of your Sunday, whatever you're doing, unfollowing people on Instagram. Don't worry, Sylvia, I'm not unfollowing you. And whoever you decide to follow your heart is all I'm saying. Yeah, that's a good place to end it.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at mikesdailypodcast.com. Email Mike now at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye.